The massive alien ship hung in space above Earth, like a dark metal moon. Inside its gleaming corridors, Commander Park Jin-ho stood perfectly still, his hands clasped behind his back. The diplomatic chamber was enormous, with walls that seemed to bend reality itself. 12 different alien species sat around a curved table that floated in midair, their strange forms barely visible through shimmering energy fields. Park Jin-ho had trained for this moment his entire life. First contact with alien civilizations, humanity's introduction to the galaxy. He had imagined it would be historic, maybe even wonderful. He had not expected it to feel like standing trial for crimes he did not understand. The insect-like creature spoke first. Its voice came through a small device that turned its clicking sounds into human words. The translation was perfect, but the tone was unmistakably mocking. "So, these are the weapons of humanity," it said, gesturing with one of its forearms toward the holographic displays floating above the table. The displays showed everything: Earth's nuclear missiles, their most powerful bombs, railguns that could fire metal slugs faster than bullets, chemical explosives that could level buildings. Every weapon humanity had ever built was laid out for inspection like toys in a store. Dr. Kim Sora stood beside Park Jin-ho, her face calm but her hands trembling slightly. She was Earth's smartest weapons scientist, the person who understood humanity's military power better than anyone alive. Right now, she looked very small next to the alien creatures, studying her life's work like children examining insects. "Chemical reactions," said another alien, this one made of what looked like living crystal. Its voice rang like bells, beautiful and cold. "They still use chemical reactions to propel their metal fragments. How? Primitive." A third creature, floating in a containment suit filled with glowing gas, made a sound that the translator rendered as laughter. "Our children play with more sophisticated toys. Do they truly believe these antiques could threaten us?" Admiral Lee Min-ho had said nothing since the demonstration began. He was old for a military commander, his hair completely gray, but his eyes were sharp and calculating. He watched each alien carefully, noting their reactions, studying their technology. The energy shields that surrounded each creature flickered with power that could stop any human weapon. Their ships could disappear and reappear anywhere they wanted. Their own weapons could turn entire planets into glass. The lead alien finally spoke. It was different from the others, made of pure energy contained within a metal framework that sparked and hummed with power. When it talked, the air itself seemed to vibrate. "Humanity will join the hegemony as a servant species," it announced. "You will mine asteroids, build our structures, maintain our machines. Your primitive technology makes you suitable for manual labor." Park Jin-ho felt his jaw clench but kept his expression neutral. "And if we refuse," the energy being's light pulsed brighter, "then you will join the 17 other species who thought themselves our equals. Would you like to see what remains of their worlds?" A new hologram appeared above the table. Dead planets, cracked moons, solar systems where nothing lived anymore. The images changed slowly, showing world after world reduced to rubble and ash. Each one had been home to billions of living beings. Now they were monuments to the hegemony's power. "The Korthak had energy weapons," explained the crystal creature, its bell-like voice almost cheerful. "They thought their plasma cannons were invincible. The Vrex used quantum tunneling devices. Very clever. The Zephyrians could manipulate gravity itself. Most impressive." It paused, and somehow Park Jin-ho knew it was smiling. "All of them are dust now." Dr. Kim Sora spoke for the first time since entering the chamber. Her voice was steady, professional. "How long do we have to decide?" "1 year," said the energy being. "We are not unreasonable. We understand that primitive species need time to accept reality. Use this time wisely. Study our power. Understand your place in the galaxy. When we return, we expect your complete surrender." The aliens began to fade, their advanced technology allowing them to simply disappear from the chamber. Only the energy being remained, its light casting strange shadows on the walls. "Do not mistake our patience for weakness," it said. "We have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. We have destroyed civilizations that possessed technology you cannot imagine. Your chemical toys and metal fragments are amusing, but they are not weapons. They are relics of a species that never learned to evolve." Then it too was gone, leaving the three humans alone in the vast chamber. For a long moment, nobody spoke. The weight of what had just happened pressed down on them like a physical force. Earth had 1 year to surrender or face extinction. Their most powerful weapons had been dismissed as toys. Humanity was alone in a galaxy ruled by beings who could destroy planets with a thought. Finally, Admiral Lee Minho broke the silence. His voice was quiet but steady. "They think we're too primitive to be dangerous." Dr. Kim Sora nodded slowly, and Park Jin-ho noticed something new in her expression. Not fear, but something else. Something that looked almost like excitement. "They've never seen anything like our weapons before. To them, we're completely backwards." "Admiral." Lee smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "Good," he said. "Let them keep thinking that. Sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one you never see coming." Captain Yoon Dae-ho floated in the observation deck of Luna Station, watching the busiest construction project in human history unfold before his eyes. Thousands of ships moved between Earth and the asteroid belt like metal ants, carrying more raw materials than humanity had ever moved before. The aliens thought humans were building new cities and factories. They had no idea they were watching the creation of the largest weapon ever conceived. "Status report," Yoon Dae-ho said into his communication device. His voice echoed through the command center where dozens of people worked at glowing screens. Coordinating the massive project, Lieutenant Choi Mina looked up from her workstation. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as numbers and charts filled the air around her. "All mining operations running at full speed. Sir, we have stripped 12 asteroids completely. The foundries are working day and night." She paused and smiled. "The alien surveillance ships passed by yesterday. They barely looked at us." Double quotes. Yoon Dae-ho nodded. "The aliens checked on Earth once every week, their ships appearing in Earth's sky like reminders of the deadline approaching, but they saw only what they expected to see. Mining ships collecting metal for construction. Factory ships processing or for building materials. Normal activities for a primitive species. Trying to improve itself, they could not see the weapons being built inside those factory ships. They could not detect the railgun platforms being disguised as communication satellites. Their advanced sensors were designed to find energy weapons and exotic materials, not simple metal and chemical explosives. Dr. Shin-wook had made the discovery that changed everything. In his laboratory deep beneath Seoul, surrounded by fragments of alien technology that had been secretly collected during the first meeting, he found the answer humanity needed. "Look at this," Dr. Shin said to Colonel Han Jisoo, pointing at a piece of alien metal that shimmered with its own light. "Their energy shields work by detecting incoming threats and creating counter-frequencies to stop them. They can stop plasma beams, antimatter, even gravity weapons." Colonel Han studied the alien fragment carefully. It was beautiful, like a piece of jewelry that bent light around itself. But they only look for advanced threats," Dr. Shin continued, his excitement growing. "Their computers are programmed to stop sophisticated weapons. They have never encountered anything as simple as a piece of metal flying very fast." He pulled up a holographic display showing the alien shield technology. "Watch this." The display showed a simulation of various weapons hitting an alien energy shield. Plasma bolts were absorbed harmlessly. Laser beams were redirected into space. Nuclear explosions were contained and neutralized. Then the simulation showed something different. A simple tungsten rod, moving at incredible speed. The shield did not even react. The rod passed through like the shield was not there. It is like building a lock that can stop any sophisticated key, Dr. Shin explained, but forgetting that someone might just break down the door with a hammer. Colonel Han stared at the simulation for a long moment. How fast would these rods need to move? 0.8 light speed, Dr. Shin replied. Fast enough that they cannot react in time, with enough energy to destroy anything they hit. Within days, the plans changed completely. Every construction project in the solar system was secretly modified. Communication satellites were rebuilt to hide railgun systems. Mining platforms were redesigned to launch kinetic projectiles. Colony ships meant to carry people to new worlds were loaded with tungsten rods instead. The work was dangerous and exhausting. People worked in shifts around the clock, sleeping only a few hours at a time. Factories that had never built weapons before were retooled to produce ammunition. Scientists who had spent their careers studying peaceful technologies learned how to build instruments of war. Captain Park Soo-won supervised the construction of the largest railgun platform ever built, hidden inside what appeared to be a simple asteroid mining station. The weapon was enormous, stretching 4 kilometers inside the hollowed-out asteroid. Its magnetic coils could accelerate a tungsten rod to incredible speeds, using nothing more than electricity and metal. The beauty is in the simplicity, Park Soo-won explained to his engineering team. No exotic materials, no energy signatures they can detect, no computer systems they can hack or disable, just basic physics. Mass times velocity equals destruction. The testing began in secret, far from Earth, where alien sensors might detect unusual activity. The first shot was a disaster. The railgun tore itself apart from the enormous forces involved. The second attempt worked better but still failed. By the 10th test, they had solved the problems. Lieutenant Kim Tae-yeon watched the successful test from a safe distance, his instruments recording every detail. A tungsten rod, no bigger than a telephone pole, accelerated to enormous speed and struck a test asteroid. The impact was incredible. The entire asteroid, larger than a mountain, simply vanished in a flash of vaporized rock and metal. One shot, Kim Tae-yeon whispered to himself. One shot could destroy their largest ships. The aliens continued their weekly surveillance flights, completely unaware of what humanity was preparing. They saw industrial activity, mining operations, construction projects, all normal for a primitive species, with 1 year to accept their fate. But hidden inside every human facility, weapons waited. Simple weapons, primitive weapons. Weapons that 10,000 years of galactic dominance had taught the hegemony to ignore. Soon the aliens would learn that sometimes the oldest solutions were the most effective solutions of all. Commander Park Ju-won sat in the command chair of the hidden control station, watching the countdown timer reach its final seconds. Around him, dozens of operators worked at their stations in complete silence. The only sound was the quiet hum of computers and the soft beeping of the timer. 3, 2, 1. Operation Thunderbolt is active, Park Ju-won said quietly into his microphone. His words traveled instantly across dozens of star systems, reaching every hidden human weapon platform in the galaxy. The response was immediate. On 17 different worlds where the hegemony built their ships and weapons, disguised mining platforms suddenly revealed their true purpose. Massive railguns that had been hidden for months aligned their barrels toward alien factories and shipyards. Captain Yu Sung-hen stood on the bridge of the warship Soul's Vengeance, watching his tactical display as the first wave of projectiles launched. The tungsten rods were invisible to most sensors, just pieces of metal flying through space faster than anything the aliens had ever encountered. First salvo away, reported his weapons officer. Impact in 47 minutes. The waiting was the hardest part. For almost an hour, the rods flew silently through space while their targets continued their normal activities. Alien workers built ships in orbital factories. Alien commanders planned new conquests from their command centers. None of them knew that death was racing toward them at 80% of light speed. Dr. Ominji monitored the attack from her station on Kepler base, her instruments tracking each projectile as it crossed the vast distances between stars. She had helped design these weapons, had run countless simulations to predict their effectiveness. But this was the first time they would be tested against real alien targets. 30 seconds to impact, she announced to the command center. Everyone stopped what they were doing to watch the main display screen. The first strike hit the Vrex industrial world exactly as planned. The tungsten rod, moving at incredible speed, passed straight through the alien energy shields like they were made of air. The shields had been designed to stop energy weapons and exotic matter. They had never been programmed to recognize a simple piece of metal as a threat. The impact was devastating. The rod struck the main manufacturing complex with the force of a nuclear weapon, but concentrated into an area smaller than a building. The entire facility, which had been producing warships for the hegemony for thousands of years, simply vanished in a flash of superheated metal and vaporized rock. Direct hit, Ominji reported, her voice filled with amazement. The manufacturing complex is completely destroyed, their shields never activated. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. On world after world, the crystalline Keth watched in horror, as their orbital shipyards were systematically destroyed by weapons their sensors could not even detect. The gas-based Nethok species tried desperately to raise their defenses, but their advanced technology was useless against simple kinetic energy. The hegemony's response was swift, but completely ineffective. Their warships appeared in human space within hours, their powerful energy weapons charging for devastating attacks. But there was nothing to shoot at. The human platforms that had launched the attack looked exactly like mining stations and communication satellites. The real human warships were hidden in asteroid fields and behind moons. Using primitive chemical rockets that the alien sensors ignored, Admiral Bei Zhongde commanded the second wave from his flagship, Ancient's Pride. His ship was ancient by hegemony standards. Powered by simple fusion engines, and armed with nothing more sophisticated than railguns and missile launchers. To the aliens, it was practically invisible. All ships, maintain radio silence, Bei Zhongde ordered. Remember, we are not here to fight fairly. We are here to win. The alien fleet that had come to punish humanity found themselves fighting ghosts. Their plasma cannons fired at empty space where their computers said human ships should be. Their quantum torpedoes exploded harmlessly against asteroids and space debris. Meanwhile, tungsten rods continued to rain down on their most important facilities. Captain Zheng Minsu piloted his small attack ship through the chaos of the battle, watching as alien vessels fired wildly in all directions. The enemy ships were magnificent, their hulls shimmering with energy fields, their weapons capable of destroying planets. But all that advanced technology was useless if they could not find their targets. This is like fighting blind, Gang Minsu said to his co-pilot. They cannot see us, because we are too primitive for their sensors to recognize. The battle for the Vrex homeworld lasted only 6 hours. When it ended, every orbital station, every shipyard, every weapons platform had been reduced to glowing debris. The proud insectoid species that had mocked human weapons watched helplessly as centuries of construction were destroyed by what their instruments registered as flying scrap metal. By the end of the first day, 17 hegemony worlds had suffered similar fates. The species that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years discovered that their greatest strength had become their greatest weakness. They had grown so advanced, so sophisticated, that they had forgotten how to defend against simple brutality. The message was clear to every surviving alien commander. Humanity's primitive weapons were not obsolete, after all. Sometimes the most basic solutions were the most effective ones. The galaxy's new masters had announced themselves not with advanced technology, but with pieces of metal flying very, very fast. The hegemony's revenge came like a storm of fire and lightning. Major Kim Dong-yoon watched from the bridge of his ship as the alien fleet appeared in the Centauri system, their vessels crackling with deadly energy. These were not the same overconfident aliens who had dismissed humanity a year ago. These were warriors who had tasted defeat and wanted blood in return. "They have modified their shields," reported Lieutenant Park Soo-yang from her sensor station. Her voice was tense but controlled. "Energy readings show they can now deflect some kinetic impacts." Kim Dong-yoon nodded grimly. The aliens had learned from their losses. Their scientists had worked day and night to adapt their defenses, strengthening their shields to stop the tungsten rods that had devastated their worlds. But adaptation required enormous amounts of power, and power had to come from somewhere. "Signal all ships," Kim Dong-yoon ordered. "Remember the plan. Make them choose between shields and weapons. They cannot have both." Task Force Hammer consisted of 20 human warships, each one built using technology that was centuries old by galactic standards. No energy shields protected them, no exotic weapons armed them. They carried nothing but armor plating, chemical rockets, and railguns that fired simple metal projectiles. To the aliens, they looked like museum pieces come to life. The battle began when the crystalline Keth fleet opened fire with their plasma cannons. Beams of superheated energy lanced across space, each one powerful enough to melt a mountain. But the human ships were not where the alien computers expected them to be. Their primitive navigation systems made random course corrections that sophisticated targeting programs could not predict. Captain Jang Minwoo commanded the destroyer Soul's Hammer as it weaved between the alien energy beams. His ship had no computer-controlled evasion system, no artificial intelligence to calculate the best course. Instead, he relied on human instincts and manual controls that had not changed in centuries. Hard to port, Jung Minwoo shouted to his helmsman, "They are trying to lead our movement, but they are calculating based on logical flight patterns." The alien beams passed harmlessly through empty space, while Soul's Hammer fired a spread of tungsten slugs at the nearest Keth vessel. The crystalline ship's shields flared to life, successfully deflecting the kinetic projectiles. But the energy required to stop the attack drained power from their weapon systems, leaving them vulnerable for precious seconds. Commander No Yayan lead Squadron 7 in a flanking attack that exploited this weakness perfectly. Her ships approached from 3 different directions, forcing the alien vessels to split their defensive power. The Keth commanders faced an impossible choice: protect against attacks from the front, or protect against attacks from the sides. They could not do both. "Focus fire on the lead ship," No Yayan ordered. "All weapons, continuous barrage." Her squadron opened fire simultaneously, sending dozens of tungsten rods toward the same target from multiple angles. The alien ships' shields held for a few seconds, then flickered and failed as their power systems overloaded. The final projectiles punched through the crystalline hull like it was made of glass. The hegemony had brought their most advanced warships to this battle. Vessels that could phase between dimensions, weapons that could manipulate time itself, shields that could deflect the energy of stars. But every advanced system required enormous amounts of power to operate, and the aliens discovered that they could not run everything at once. Dr. Lim Soyan observed the battle from Earth's war room, analyzing the tactical data as it streamed in from the combat zone. The aliens were making the same mistake they had always made. They were fighting the war they wanted to fight, not the war humanity was actually giving them. "Look at this," she said to the other analysts, pointing at the energy readings on her display. "Every time they strengthen their shields, their weapon power drops. Every time they try to phase shift, they become vulnerable to kinetic attacks. They cannot adapt fast enough to counter our simplicity." The battle raged for hours. Alien ships appeared and disappeared, striking from impossible angles, with weapons that bent the laws of physics. But for every human ship they destroyed, they lost 2 of their own. The energy requirements of their advanced technology made them predictable. When they powered up their shields, human commanders knew their weapons would be weaker. When they charged their plasma cannons, human pilots knew their defenses would be down. Lieutenant Commander Osiokan piloted his small fighter through the chaos, targeting alien ships that were switching between offensive and defensive modes. His vessel carried nothing more sophisticated than chemical rockets and a single railgun, but those simple weapons were exactly what the situation required. "This is like fighting someone who brings a computer to a fistfight," Osiokan radioed to his wingman. "All their technology means nothing if they cannot use it all at the same time." The turning point came when the alien flagship, a massive vessel that housed the Keth Fleet commander, tried to use all its systems simultaneously. The ship's power grid overloaded, leaving it helpless for nearly a minute, while emergency systems restored basic functions. Human ships converged on the crippled vessel from all directions, their simple weapons overwhelming its defenses through sheer numbers. When the flagship exploded, the remaining alien ships retreated in disorder. The hegemony's technological superiority had become their greatest weakness. They had built weapons so advanced that they could not use them effectively, shields so sophisticated that they consumed more power than their ships could generate. The galaxy's former masters were learning a hard lesson. Complexity was not the same as effectiveness. Admiral Kim Hye-in stood on the bridge of Bizen's Defiance, staring at the tactical display that showed the final remnants of the hegemony fleet. After months of running battles across the galaxy, the aliens had retreated to their last stronghold, in the Nexus system. This was where their empire had begun 10,000 years ago, and this was where it would end. The enemy formation was impressive, even in defeat. 12 different species had contributed their most powerful warships to this final stand. Energy shields created a barrier of light around their fleet that could stop the fire of 100 suns. Weapons that could tear holes in space itself, charged with deadly purpose. The dimensional gateway that connected their empire pulsed with enough power to move entire worlds. "All ships, this is Admiral Kim," she spoke into her communicator, her words reaching every human vessel in the system. "Today we finish what they started. Today we end 10,000 years of tyranny, with weapons they called primitive toys." The human fleet looked tiny compared to the alien armada. No energy shields protected the Earth's ships. No exotic weapons gleamed on their hulls. They moved through space, using chemical rockets and fusion drives that were ancient by galactic standards. To any observer, it would seem like a hopeless fight. But Colonel An Ji-won knew better. He sat in the pilot's seat of a small chemical rocket that looked more like a delivery vehicle than a weapon of war. His ship carried no guns, no missiles, no advanced targeting systems. It carried only one thing, a fusion bomb with a simple timer. The same basic design that humanity had used for centuries. "Phoenix 1 is ready for final approach," An Gi-won reported to the Admiral. His rocket was already accelerating toward the heart of the alien formation, moving slowly and predictably like a piece of space junk caught in the gravity well. The aliens opened fire with everything they had. Reality-warping weapons tried to erase human ships from existence. Time dilation fields attempted to trap them in slow motion. Antimatter torrents that could unmake entire solar systems lanced across space with devastating power. Captain Song Yemen dodged between the alien attacks, his ship Daegu's Hope spinning and rolling through patterns that no computer could calculate. The alien weapons were incredibly powerful, but they were designed to fight other advanced civilizations. They expected their enemies to use sophisticated evasion systems and predictable flight paths. "They are still trying to fight the war, they understand," Song Yemen said to his co-pilot, as another antimatter beam missed them by kilometers. "They cannot hit what they cannot predict." The human fleet scattered in all directions, each ship following its own chaotic course through the battle zone. Some ships fired tungsten rods at alien vessels, forcing them to raise their shields. Others launched simple explosive missiles that drew defensive fire away from more important targets. It looked like random chaos, but every move was calculated to create one perfect opportunity. Colonel Anjuan continued his slow approach toward the dimensional gateway. His little rocket moved like a piece of debris, changing course only slightly to avoid the largest energy beams. The alien sensors registered his ship as unimportant, just another human vessel fleeing the battle zone. Phoenix 1, you are approaching the gateway. Admiral Kim's voice crackled over the radio. Remember, you need to get inside the energy field before detonation. Understood, Anjuan replied calmly. Through his small window, he could see the gateway growing larger. It was beautiful, in a way, a ring of exotic matter that bent space and time around itself. This single structure connected the hegemony's empire, allowing instant travel between distant worlds. Without it, their scattered fleets would be stranded. The aliens finally noticed his approach when he was less than a kilometer away. Energy weapons swiveled toward his tiny ship, charging up for a killing blow. But they were too late. Anjuan's rocket crossed the gateway's energy threshold, just as the fusion bomb's timer reached 0. The explosion was not spectacular by galactic standards. It was just a simple nuclear reaction, the kind of energy release that humanity had been creating for centuries. But it happened inside the dimensional gateway's exotic matter field, and the interaction between primitive fusion energy and advanced alien technology created something unexpected. Captain Song Yemen watched in amazement as the gateway began to collapse. The dimensional field is destabilizing, he reported. The explosion is creating a cascade failure. The gateway's destruction sent waves of energy racing through the network that connected the hegemony worlds. One by one, the dimensional portals that had held the empire together for millennia winked out of existence. The alien fleets scattered across the galaxies suddenly found themselves cut off from each other, stranded in distant systems with no way home. The remaining ships in the Nexus system fired desperately at the human fleet, but their coordination was broken. Without the gateway network, they could not communicate with their high command. Without their advanced tactical systems, they could not adapt to human unpredictability. Within hours, the last of the hegemony's great warships had been destroyed or captured. The galaxy fell silent for the first time in 10,000 years. On world after world, the ruins of advanced civilizations stood as monuments to the danger of forgetting that sometimes the simplest solutions were the most effective ones. Admiral Kim Hyeon established humanity's first memorial on the former hegemony capital. The inscription was carved into a piece of tungsten that had once been a kinetic projectile. They confused complexity with strength. We showed them the power of simplicity.